We are now one step closer to answering the question, what did the president know and how old were these women when he knew it? Trump hasn't been this nervous about signing something since Don Jr.'s birth certificate.
Jimmy Kimmel's latest dissection exposes Trump's ultimate nightmare. Documents that could reveal his decade-long friendship with Jeffrey Epstein are about to go public. And Trump's legendary ability to bury scandals through sheer force of denial is finally meeting an immovable object. The president who built his empire on non-disclosure agreements now faces 427 congressional votes demanding full disclosure. Trump's operating system, which runs entirely on ego subroutines and selective memory hardware, is experiencing what tech support would call a critical failure. Congress voted 427-1, a landslide so massive even Trump can't claim he won it. That single dissenting vote probably came from someone who misread the bill or was taking a bathroom break. Trump's relationship with Epstein wasn't casual acquaintanceship, but a friendship Trump himself once bragged about in public, describing Epstein as someone who appreciated young women as much as Trump did. That quote aged like milk in the Arizona sun, curdling into a toxic brew of implications and investigations. The legislative avalanche forcing transparency would be comedy gold if the stakes weren't carved from darkness itself. Trump's response to receiving a bill he actually has to sign reveals his entire psychological playbook in real time. Notice how his instinct isn't compliance, but calculation, searching desperately for loopholes in legislation with bipartisan support so overwhelming it could qualify as a natural disaster. Trump treats governing documents like prenuptial agreements, always scanning for the exit clause, the fine print that lets him escape accountability. The president who promised to drain the swamp now desperately needs that swamp to overflow and drown these documents in bureaucratic quicksand, buying him time to construct new narratives and alternative facts.
Now, usually when Trump gets a bill, he declares bankruptcy and doesn't pay it, but this one, he's going to have to sign it, or at least he says he's going to sign it, which means there's about maybe a 12% chance he will.
Kimmel surgically exposes Trump's credibility problem with devastating precision. Trump says he'll sign the bill with the same conviction he brought to paying contractors, honoring marriage vows, and telling the truth about literally anything that happened more than 5 minutes ago. That 12% estimate feels almost generous given Trump's track record. Trump's word operates on a sliding scale of convenience, where certainty means maybe, definitely means probably not, and sworn testimony means whatever his lawyers tell him to say. The man who built a brand on the art of the deal practices the art of the weasel, always leaving himself maximum wiggle room in case reality demands he actually follow through on promises. Trump's commitments have the structural integrity of cotton candy in a hurricane. Trump's visible nervousness about signing reveals what genuine fear looks like when it invades the consciousness of a man who spent decades perfecting the performance of invincible confidence. He's not worried about the signature itself, that theatrical flourish he's performed thousands of times with his comically oversized Sharpie. Trump's worried about what that signature might unleash from sealed archives and redacted files. Trump understands that once these documents go public, his usual playbook of deny, deflect, and declare victory won't function. You can't gaslight government documents. Well, Trump will certainly try, with the dedication of a method actor refusing to break character. But even his most devoted followers might experience cognitive dissonance when confronted with evidence that doesn't come filtered through the Fox News reality distortion matrix.
They're taking the word of someone who paid a porn star $130,000 and claims he didn't do anything with her.
The absurdity stacks so high, it develops its own gravitational field, warping logic in its vicinity. Trump paid 6 figures to buy silence about an encounter he insists never happened, which demonstrates reasoning roughly equivalent to buying fire insurance for an imaginary house, or hiring security guards for non-existent jewelry. His defenders accept this logic with the unquestioning enthusiasm of cult members defending their leader's prophecy that the world will end next Tuesday, maybe Wednesday if there's traffic delays. Trump's relationship with truth operates on quantum mechanics principles, where facts exist in superposition, simultaneously real and fake, depending on which version serves his narrative better at any given nanosecond. Schrodinger's presidency, where every statement exists in a state of truthfulness and falsehood until Trump observes it in a mirror. Republican leaders defending Trump before reading the files they're defending exemplify the party's complete transformation into Trump's personal Praetorian Guard. They're taking his word, despite overwhelming historical evidence that Trump's word has the reliability of a chocolate teapot, or campaign promises made during happy hour. These are elected officials who've watched Trump lie about crowd sizes, weather patterns, election results, and his own recorded statements caught on video. Yet they line up to vouch for his innocence regarding documents they haven't read, about events they didn't witness. Faith-based politics taken to its logical extreme. Believe Trump or believe your lying eyes. And Republicans consistently choose Trump with the fervor of true believers choosing their profit over photographic evidence.
I'm deeply disappointed in this outcome. I think, I've been at the state dinner. I don't know. I was just told that Chuck Schumer rushed it to the floor.
Speaker Mike Johnson's public meltdown reads like a hostage video where the hostage keeps begging his captors to reconsider their demands. His desperation to amend the bill, to add redactions, to protect the innocent, translates from Republican speak to English as "please let us hide the stuff that makes Trump look guilty beyond reasonable doubt." Johnson shut down Washington for 2 months trying to prevent this exact moment, demonstrating the extraordinary lengths Republicans will travel to shield Trump from accountability, transparency, and the consequences of his own documented actions. The speaker wanted to redact names to protect the innocent, which would be touching if anyone believed Trump's name would qualify for that particular protection category. Johnson's performance showcases Trump's psychological grip on the Republican Party, where loyalty means defending the indefensible and spinning for someone who wouldn't cross the street to help you if your hair was on fire, unless CNN cameras were rolling and he could claim credit for the heroic rescue. These politicians terrify themselves into submission through a process of psychological conditioning worthy of academic study. They're afraid that one moment of independence, one flash of conscience, might trigger a Trump tantrum that ends their careers via primary challenge funded by Trump's donor network. They've watched Trump destroy political futures with a single Truth Social post and decided survival means surrender, dignity means nothing, and principles are negotiable based on Trump's current mood.
They are so scared of Trump. What is going on? Is he beating them? I don't get it. They just blindly defend him.
Kimmel captures the existential question haunting American political discourse. What supernatural hold does Trump possess that transforms elected officials into loyalty-programmed robots incapable of independent thought? Trump doesn't beat them physically. He breaks them psychologically through a combination of threats, tantrums, and the ever-present danger of being excommunicated from MAGA world. Trump created a climate where defending his indefensible behavior becomes the mandatory price of political survival in Republican circles. Watch colleagues who dared cross Trump get primaried into oblivion, their careers destroyed with surgical precision, and the lesson becomes crystal clear. Bend the knee or pack your office. Trump transformed political disagreement into career suicide and policy debates into loyalty tests, where the only acceptable answer is whatever Trump said most recently. This blind defense protocol operates regardless of evidence, facts, common sense, or basic human decency. Trump could announce tomorrow that he's actually 3 raccoons in a suit operating a complicated pulley system, and Republicans would hold solemn press conferences praising his innovative approach to human disguise and leadership. They've invested so completely in Trump's brand that admitting his flaws would require admitting their own complicity. And that's a mirror reflection they absolutely refuse to face, even at gunpoint.
We're going to have a UFC fight. Think of this on the grounds of the White House.
This is an executive order relating to the use of paper straws.
Trump's priority list assembles into a greatest hits compilation of presidential absurdity, a playlist of chaos that would make any organizational psychologist weep. While serious matters like Epstein files demand immediate attention, Trump dedicates precious mental energy and executive power to banning paper straws and hosting UFC fights on hallowed ground. Trump treats the presidency like SimCity on easy mode, with unlimited cheat codes and no consequences for terrible urban planning. His brain operates like a cable news channel that fired its programming director and now just broadcasts whatever appears in Trump's consciousness at any given moment. creating a stream of consciousness governance style that jumps between topics with the coherence of a drunk uncle at Thanksgiving dinner explaining cryptocurrency.
The wind is bull. I'll tell you.
Trump's wind energy soliloquy deserves particular attention because it perfectly showcases his approach to reality itself. When something inconveniences Trump or contradicts his worldview, it becomes bullshit through presidential decree, as if executive power extends to rewriting the laws of physics and meteorology. Trump declared war on wind energy with the passion of Don Quixote fighting windmills, except Quixote had the excuse of delusion induced by too much literature, while Trump has only ego and oil industry donation checks. Trump's vendetta against wind turbines became a signature fixation, claiming they cause cancer, kill birds by the thousands, and destroy property values, none of which withstands even minimal fact-checking, but all of which serve Trump's narrative that renewable energy threatens his worldview and donor interests.
Because I want to be very modest. I always want to be modest as I can. They say this has been the best 9 months that any president has ever had.
Trump's modesty performance reaches Olympic-level gymnastics, earning perfect 10s from judges who don't exist except in Trump's imagination. He claims he'd never praise himself while actively, publicly, loudly praising himself, attributing his self-aggrandizement to mysterious, they say, sources that sound suspiciously like Trump talking to himself in gold-plated mirrors. Trump's declaration of modesty, while simultaneously bragging about having the best 9 months of any president in American history, captures his relationship with self-awareness. They're not on speaking terms, never were, and have restraining orders against each other. Trump weaponizes false humility to make outrageous boasts sound like reluctant admissions of obvious greatness forced from him by popular demand. It's psychological judo that would impress therapists if it weren't so transparently fraudulent. The best 9 months claim ignores every measurable metric that actually matters: approval ratings, legislative achievements, international relations, domestic stability, economic indicators, or literally any objective standard of presidential success. But in Trump's cinematic universe, reality is whatever he declares it to be in that moment. Facts are polite suggestions he's free to ignore, and presidential success measures itself entirely in ego validation rather than actual accomplishments. Trump ended World War II in his imagination, cured diseases he invented himself, and solved problems he personally created, all while maintaining with a straight face that he's too modest to mention any of these fictional achievements.
Shows President Trump's approval rating has fallen. Just 38% of Americans approve of the job Trump is doing.
Well, look at that.
The polling data delivers brutal clarity. Trump declares his presidency the greatest in history, while 62% of Americans disagree strongly enough to tell random strangers with clipboards about their disapproval. The math doesn't lie, but Trump does constantly, and that's the fundamental asymmetry making his presidency such spectacular political theater. Trump's approval rating collapsed faster than his casino businesses, yet he parades around with the confidence of a conquering hero, because in his psychological ecosystem, perception matters infinitely more than reality, and his own perception is the only one that counts for anything. That 38% approval represents Trump's reality distortion field operating at maximum range, capturing only the true believers who'd approve if Trump declared himself emperor for life and mandated orange spray tan for all citizens as proof of loyalty. Trump transformed the presidency into performance art, where the performance never ends because the performer fundamentally cannot distinguish between acting and existing, between the role and reality. He's simultaneously con man and mark, running the scam while believing his own pitch with absolute conviction. The Epstein files represent that rare moment when Trump's reality show might finally get canceled by actual reality, when official documents prove stronger than denial and facts outlast spin. Trump built his entire empire on non-disclosure agreements and legal threats, but Congress just voted 427-1 to disclose everything. And for once in his charmed life, Trump can't declare bankruptcy and walk away from the consequences. Trump probably genuinely believes his own performance at this point. He's lived so long in the bubble of yes men and sycophants that he authentically thinks he's had the best 9 months ever, while his approval rating tanks and scandals multiply like rabbits. Trump is both joke and punchline, setup and payoff, trapped in a reality show where he's the only viewer who thinks he's winning. The Epstein files might finally force Trump to confront the one thing he's avoided his entire life with pathological dedication: consequences for his actions. But knowing Trump's track record, he'll probably just declare the consequences fake news and schedule another UFC fight on the White House lawn while his lawyers work overtime.